everything you've heard about him is true.
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
Hello everyone, I'm here to talk to you about Star Wars Lando Double or Nothing. I am incredibly behind on getting around to reading this comic. This comic came out as a part of the tie-in material to Solo: A Star Wars Story. This is a Lando-centric comic, as the title would suggest, written by Rodney Barnes. As I said, I did not get around to reading it when it first came out, but I was recently inspired to dive back in, since we just a couple of months ago had the 1-year anniversary of Solo: A Star Wars Story. And I want anything and everything more Lando all of the time. I really enjoyed this comic. It was a lot of fun. It was the kind of classic scoundrelly adventure that you might expect. It was a great look at Lando on a solo adventure. It had action, it had humor, it had dramatic poses, it had one-liners. You saw scoundrel Lando. You saw a Lando that was being approached with a seemingly simple smuggling job by a very, very beautiful woman, and Lando being very concerned about both impressing her and getting his money. You saw the Lando that already owes debt to several other people, the Lando that's kind of on the run, the Lando that's kind of out for himself. You also see the vain Lando. You see the Lando that would rather have fancy furniture and setups on the Millennium Falcon instead of better shielding or weapons. But you also saw budding hero Lando. You saw Lando kind of get drawn into a conflict with the Empire, something that is not uncommon in this time period. Lando is kind of forced to be up against the Empire as his own self-interest kind of coincides with the interest of this group of people that he's trying to help. It was a really good story of seeing where Lando is, who Lando is at this point of time, and how he kind of starts to transition into the Lando Calrissian we would come to know and love in the original trilogy, where he ultimately ends up as a general. And of course we see him in Solo: A Star Wars Story in between this comic and the original trilogy. This comic is actually how Lando ended up on Vandor with the Millennium Falcon, why the Millennium Falcon is in the confiscated lot that it was in. So it was also a very useful story. It was a good story for getting to know Lando and also getting to see where Lando's story goes and how he ends up being in Solo: A Star Wars Story. The other thing I really appreciated was Lando's relationship with L3. The dynamic between the two characters is something that would be very easy to get incorrect. This was something I really liked. This was a story that was very aware of what it was in the absolute perfect way. It was just over the top enough. It was just funny enough. It was just dramatic enough. It was the perfect tone for what you would want in a Lando solo excursion. The art in it is fantastic. This is one of my all-time favorite art styles for comics, this kind of almost watercolory effect. It's bright, it's vibrant. There are so many epic hero shots, so many great poses. I loved how the action was constructed. A lot of times with comics I have a hard time following action because it's disjointed panel to panel. I did not have that problem with this comic at all. The scenery was stunning for being a story that's largely set on like a wasteland world and then in like mining tunnels. Basically, it was beautiful, and there was a way to really bring the setting alive and make it feel like something in Star Wars. And then the parts in space were, of course, as Star Wars can get. So overall, if you are a fan of Lando Calrissian, if you are a fan of Solo: A Star Wars Story, and you want more stories told in that style, in that tone, in that kind of fun, galaxy romping nature, then this is 100% a comic I would recommend to you. You don't need to have seen or read a whole lot of other things to get what's going on in the comic. If you are worried about getting started in Star Wars comics, 100% accessible to you if you want to get into it. If you are somebody who likes to read a little bit of everything, you're going to find a lot of little stuff in there that's going to be a lot of fun for you as well. Overall, just a really good, accessible comic for anybody who might want to pick up and read a little bit about Lando. Now, if you're out there and you've read this comic, I would love to know what you think of it. Please leave me a comment letting me know. If you haven't already, please follow us on all of the socials. And until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun!